Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of Crime Between Us. I'm Adam.
And I'm Sandra. And this podcast, it's really for those stories that just kind of get lost in the noise, you know? The crimes that, well, some of us hear about super briefly, and some people never even hear about at all. But they definitely should be known.
All right, exactly. We just really wanted to create a space where we could talk about the strange, the disturbing, the unexplained, and, sometimes the downright unjust things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're not cops, we're not lawyers or anything like that. But we are just super curious people who honestly can't stop thinking about all the things that just fall through the cracks.
And today, actually, we're starting with one of those stories that just feels so unfinished, unsolved, and quite frankly, really unfair. It's the story of Kendrick Johnson.
Yeah, and I think if you've never heard that name before, honestly, you're really not alone. Kendrick Johnson, he was a 17-year-old student from Valdosta, Georgia. And in 2013, he was found dead. Dead. And he was found inside a rolled up gym mat in his high school.
Inside a gym mat? I mean, just let that sit for a second. What even is that?
Yeah, I know. It was one of those big, vertical wrestling mats. You see them, they're usually standing upright in the corner of the gym, right? So his body was found upside down with his feet in the air and his head toward the floor. And it was actually the day after he'd gone missing.
So the official story, at first was really quickly ruled an accident. I mean, authorities said Kendrick must have, dropped a shoe into the mat somehow and then crawled in head first to try and get it and then just got stuck and then, suffocated.
But I mean, come on, right? There were just so many questions right away, Adam. I mean, Kendrick, he was an athlete, right? He was tall, he was flexible, he was strong. So why would he, dive headfirst into this mat that had a hole barely wide enough for his shoulders? It really didn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Think about it. He's a really athletic guy, supposedly. And then he just decides, I'm going to dive headfirst into this thing. And like you said, the opening, it wasn't wide. It was a really, really narrow opening. So it's just, it's really hard to imagine that scenario, It just doesn't quite add up.
It really doesn't. And I think that's where the family, really just knew something wasn't right from the get-go. They couldn't buy that.
Yeah, and I think that's why his family, they just absolutely knew something wasn't right. They really, really pushed for answers. They really pushed for a second autopsy.
Yeah, and this is where it gets totally different, Because that second autopsy, Adam, it showed something completely just different. It found blunt force trauma.
Yeah, and specifically blunt force trauma to the neck, right? Which, I mean, that's huge because suddenly the cause of death is not an accident anymore. It's not suffocation. It's looking a lot like homicide,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's a whole different ballgame. You go from, he just, fell in there to, wait a minute, no, this looks like someone actually did this. And I mean, you can just imagine, right? The family's reaction, it just fueled them even more, They were we are going to find out what happened. It was just this relentless pursuit after that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, how could you not? When you hear that, it changes everything. It's not just a tragic accident anymore. It's a crime. And they needed to know why. And more importantly, who.
And, speaking of who, this is where it just gets even more, I don't know, frustrating or suspicious. Because then you start looking at the surveillance footage from the school, from the gym specifically.
Oh, don't even get me started on the footage. Seriously, it's they say it was just missing or conveniently erased, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gone. You see Kendrick enter the gym, right? And then poof, nothing. You don't see what happens next. It's just a blank.
It's just incredible, isn't it? For a high school, you'd think they'd have, top-notch security, especially when something this serious happens. But then all these crucial frames are just not there.
And it's not just a little bit here or there. It's key moments, right? The very moments that would actually tell you what happened. It really, it just makes you wonder, how does security footage just conveniently lose that much time?
It really does. And it obviously, it really hampered the investigation. I mean, if you don't have that visual evidence, how do you even begin to piece together what happened? It's just, It's a huge red flag if you ask me. Yeah, and I mean, because of all these questions, it really did eventually, blow up. The case became national news for a while. It was everywhere.
Oh, for sure. I remember seeing a lot about it. There were protests. There were, I think documentaries even came out, right? Headlines everywhere. It was like truly a national conversation.
Yeah, it was huge for a bit, and then it just went quiet, and the FBI, they closed the case like in 2016.
No charges were filed. Can you believe that? After all of that, all the back and forth, the family's pleas, just silence.
I know. It's just so frustrating because here you have a family and just so many people who were just desperate for answers, for some kind of justice. And then nothing. Just silence.
Right? Like no accountability whatsoever. Despite everything, despite all those questions, all the the discrepancies, it just ended officially anyway for the FBI. But here's the thing, Adam, Kendrick's family, they didn't give up. Not even for a second, even with the FBI saying, okay, this is done.
Oh, for sure. No, they absolutely did not. In fact, they had him exhumed again actually in 2018. Can you believe that? A third autopsy.
Yeah, a third one. And the findings, again, it confirmed it. It was blunt force trauma. Still saying that's the cause of death. Not an accident, not at all.
Exactly. So, their persistence, it's just incredible. And it actually led to something, The case was reopened by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. That was in 2021.
Yeah, 2021. And here we are now talking about it still. There's still no arrest, right? Still no answers, It's just mind-boggling. So, Adam, that's really for us why we wanted to start * crime between us * with this case. Because it really is, I don't know, it's just exactly what this show is about,
Yeah, for sure. It's those things that just they don't add up, and it's the voices that, they get ignored or they feel ignored. And it's those families who are just still fighting, tirelessly for truth long after, the headlines have just completely disappeared.
Exactly. The public attention just kind of, it just wanes and they're still there every single day. And that, for us, is why this story just resonates so much, because it's not just a tragic story. It's really the core of what we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I think Kendrick's story, it's not just a tragedy, right? It's kind of like a mirror, I think,
Yeah.
It forces us to ask ourselves, how often does justice just not happen? And I guess, who decides what stories actually, get told? What narratives are out there?
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? We just kind of accept what we're told sometimes. And with cases like this where, there's just so much that doesn't add up, you just kind of have to, you have to sit with it, and really, really question everything. And that's what we want to do here. If you, if you really want to dig deeper into Kendrick's case, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't after hearing this, we really, really recommend watching the documentary Finding Kendrick Johnson.
Yeah, it's by Jason Pollock, and it just it goes into so many of the the missing details, I guess, the things that maybe weren't brought up on the surface.
Yeah, and you can also read the actual case files that were released by both the FBI and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We're gonna post some links for those, in the show notes too, so you can really, go down that rabbit hole. So, thank you so much for joining us for our very first episode of Crime Between Us. I really hope this resonated with you.
Yeah, if you're still kind of thinking about Kendrick Johnson when this episode ends, then I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be,
For sure. And, we'll be back next week with another case, another, kind of wild story that, just sort of slipped between the cracks on Crime Between Us.
And don't forget to subscribe and our YouTube channel. It really, it helps us keep telling these stories. So,